All right, so in terms of twins, okay, twins are really important in psychology because of the fact that they give us so much information about this idea of nature versus nurture, genes versus environment. So it's important though first to understand kind of what the types of twins are. Okay, so fraternal twins are basically two eggs, two sperm. So you're no more genetically the same or different than siblings. The difference is obviously that you were born at the same time. Okay, identical twins is when one egg and one sperm split. So there you have the exact same genetic material. Okay, now identical twins can only be the same sex. Okay, because again, same genetic material split in two. Fraternal twins can be the same or opposite sex. Okay. Now, twins and adoption studies are super important in psychology. So they're one of the best ways for us to really assess this idea of nature and nurture. How similar are we? Well, we do twin studies to really kind of show a lot of this stuff because we can then decide, identical twins, especially if you have two sets of identical twins that have the exact same genetic material and were raised in the same environment, but they're different. What could have caused those differences? So it gives us a lot of really kind of fascinating information. Now, studies of twins in adulthood show that identical twins are more alike than fraternal twins in personality traits such as extroversion and neuroticism, behaviors and outcomes such as, the rates of divorce, and abilities such as overall intelligence test scores. So, how do we find out the same genes express themselves differently in different environments? Well, we do things called identical twins raised separately, because it does happen that you have two identical twins that are put up for adoption and are adopted by two separate families. Well, if we can find them later and bring them back together and we can study to see what happened, what's the same, what's different, and why. Okay, and there's a big study called the Minnesota Twin Family Study. It is a huge organization that really works with these types of situations. Now, the studies of identical twins raised apart, what have we found? Well, we found that there are similarities despite being raised in different homes. So, personality, styles of thinking and relating, abilities and intelligence test scores, attitudes, interests and tastes, specific fears, brainwaves, heart rates, those types of things. So, given this evidence, it turns out, does parenting, nature, nurture make any difference? Does the home environment really have any impact? And what we found is that studies have been performed with adopted children for whom the biological relatives are known. And the findings are that adoptive children seem to be more similar to their genetic relatives than to their environmental nurture relatives. So we are starting to understand that there is a lot of power in genetics. Okay, now, despite the strong impact of genetics on personality, parenting has an influence on things like religious beliefs, values, manners, attitudes, politics, and habits. Okay, so even though personality traits tend to kind of gravitate towards genetics, we can't discount the importance of the environment that they're in. And in a lot of ways, things like values, attitudes, habits, those kinds of things almost have a strong influence on personality as well. Okay, so and we'll talk a lot more about twins and we'll look at some kind of evidence, some examples of twin studies and look at some things in class.